So now that we're currently up to chapter 59, I figured now would be a good time to talk about this, but before I do, for any Hades fans who want to know what my overall thoughts are on why I think Hades could win, then I actually already made a video on it, so if you want to check that out, then I'll leave a link to it down below in the comments and the description. But now that I feel like we've gotten a pretty good idea of what Chin is capable of, then I think now's a good time to get into why I think Chin has a really good chance at winning the fight here. And I know I said in my Hades video that if I had to make a bet, I would probably pick Hades, but I think after everything we've gotten so far, it would honestly just make so much sense if Chin won. And I think one of the biggest reasons why is simply because it always felt like the story just had to make equally as much sense as the fight itself, right? And this is a somewhat standard rule in battle manga, you know, to never make the fight feel too overly one-sided by comparing not just the physical abilities of both the fighters, but also their motives, their burdens, their personalities. It depends on where the author wants to take it. And when it comes to Chin, I think not only does it make sense for Chin to win this from the perspective of what he's physically capable of, but also from a narrative standpoint, where I just think Hades can't compare. And don't worry, I'm going to be explaining all of this, especially why I think it makes sense for Chin to win this from a narrative standpoint, because, and this is just my opinion, but I just feel like the story's been already setting the stage for Chin's win, regardless of how competitive or uncompetitive the fight's been from a physical standpoint. But for now, I just want to talk about this from the physical standpoint, from an angle where I'm looking at them purely as two competitors in a death match based on what they've been able to show so far. So like I said already, not only do I think it's already been alluded to that I think Chin will win here for the sake of the story, but I'd also say he's also already proven to be able to outmatch Hades since the beginning of the fight. And for those of you who have already seen my Hades video, then you already know that I said one of the biggest advantages Hades has over Chin is his strength. But unlike Hades, Chin just has so many different abilities that he doesn't need to win the battle of strength, he just needs to counter him. And we see Chin do this in chapter 58 when he combines his crossbow form with his armor form by targeting Hades at his chi and then going for the counter. And what makes this so impressive is that this is actually Hades using the same move twice now, right? Because despite how much Chin resisted the first time in his armor form, Hades was able to overwhelm him with Persephone Titan, but by using both the crossbow and armor form, Chin didn't only block the second Persephone Titan, but he counters it entirely. And whether or not he decides to block it the second time with his armor form isn't specifically stated, but we see him take the same position where he crosses his arm and tanks Persephone Titan like he did the first time. So it's ultimately a combination of him blocking and then using crossbow and armor form in that order. And this is important because again, we can clearly see how in the battle of strength, Chin is smart enough to not just overcome the attack itself, but combine his different abilities in a single moment without trying to prove to be the stronger fighter. And if Hades is only going to rely on his strength, then I think the chances of Chin winning here are just too good, especially if we see him make more combination attacks like this with the other two forms that we haven't even seen yet. And I think the fact that Chin is so smart is also one of the biggest reasons why I could see him win, right? And it's not like I'm trying to downplay Hades as an idiot, right? But I just feel like Chin's approach to this fight is going so much more smoothly than Hades. And a good example of this is after Chin uses his armor form on Hades. We see him take the initiative for the very first time in the fight, but he immediately stops his attack to dodge the counter from Hades. And this is really interesting because I'm not sure if we see Chin do this loud scream on purpose as he's running to cause Hades into standing up, right? Because we see all this dust around them after Chin flips him over, so who knows, maybe Chin just wanted to make it seem like he was going for the attack to force Hades into showing himself maybe. Because we actually see it from his point of view. He's clearly running at a ball of dust, so it's not like Chin can even see him. But then right when it looks like he can see the tips of his bident, Chin just suddenly stops the attack and then they're both aware of where they are. So clearly it looks like Chin is leading the dance here, especially after countering Hades for the second time in the fight. It's almost like he didn't want to give Hades any time to rest after he flipped him over. And you can notice after Chin does this, we see them both take a breather here. So it's very obvious that they're both under a lot of physical stress, but again, it's like Chin calculated when they can both get this moment of relief. And this is just a prime example of his high fight IQ. I can really see Chin outsmarting Hades for the rest of the fight. Also, if you compare who's had the bigger moments, then I think it's clearly Chin who's in the lead here. Because after using his crossbow and armor form, we see Chin rushing at Hades with another combination, using the crossbow and the spear form. So it's twice in the same chapter that Chin gets the upper hand on Hades. And even though his chi sight causes him to take just as much damage, all this this really means is that Qin can consistently lead the fight at his own pace if he feels he can tolerate the damage. So besides chapter 58, the only noticeable time Hades got the upper hand was in chapter 57, where he uses Persephone Titan for the first time. And even though we see Hades do some damage in chapter 56, it's ultimately Qin with the bigger moment when he uses his armor form to counter Persephone Roa. So out of these 4 big moments in the fight so far, Hades has only 1. And even though Qin suffers just as much damage when he uses his chi sight, it still means Qin can push the pace without killing Hades instantly, so it's almost like a trade-off, right? Like in exchange for leading the fight with his chi sight, he can't do anything that could instantly kill Hades since it would probably kill Qin too. And besides Qin being able to use combinations, it's not like Hades can counter his chi sight, right? And this isn't even an ability that he has because of his Voland. It's his own ability that's effective against anything with chi, so unless Hades can straight up move and fight without using his chi or is somehow able to remove it out of him entirely, then he's at a massive disadvantage. And besides his crossbow armor and spear form, there's still his sword and halberd form, so who knows if we'll see him combine even more techniques. And if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure it hasn't been explained what his Voland does besides taking the form of armor, so if his Voland has abilities that we're unaware of still, then I just can't see this looking good for Hades. But I'm sure there has to be more to Hades than just brute strength, right? I mean, considering he's the brother of Zeus and Poseidon, then I think it's likely that we're gonna see either 2 things. 1, some high tier speed on the level of Poseidon, or 2, a final form evolution like how we saw Zeus in his diamond form. And because Hades is considered the scariest god, then I'd bet that we'd see Hades go into some ultra terrifying form, right? Of course, this is just my guess, but at least if it goes this route, then I can definitely see it getting more competitive for the both of them. And who knows, maybe Hades turns into like a full-on monster like demon, and it turns out that Qin gets like a more heroic story as the human to slay the beast like he did against Chiyo, who knows? I mean, I'm really just throwing ideas out here. Who can really say how it'll all go down? But if Hades can pressure Qin with high tier speed or a final form, then this will probably help balance the power gap right now, but as it stands, I think it's all in Qin's favor. So that pretty much explains how I'm looking at this from a competitive standpoint, but from a narrative standpoint, this is where I think there's just a way stronger case for Qin to win. Because again, even though Qin's shown to be more effective in the fight, if Hades can pull some final form or overwhelming speed, then I think that'll fix it, right? I mean, he is one of the chief gods like Zeus and Shiva, so it only makes sense that we see more from him. But looking at Hades and Qin as simply 2 characters in the story, I just think Qin has the better purpose and story here. And this is why I really hope that when we get the backstory for Hades, it can make his motives for fighting in the tournament more than just about revenge. Because at the moment, it's just kind of pointless to me, right? Because it's not like Zeus was even hurt that Poseidon died, so seeing Hades come out of nowhere with that just felt really random, I think. And I hope with his backstory, we can learn what exactly made his relationship with Poseidon so special. That's the biggest question that I want answered at the moment. Because if his backstory can touch on why Poseidon was so important to him in a way that Zeus couldn't relate to, then I think that might make his revenge more meaningful. And because a massive part of the story is what defines a king, then I think his backstory has the potential to be the greatest backstory in the entire tournament, honestly. Like, could you imagine if Poseidon was originally meant to rule the underworld, but for some reason Hades felt that Poseidon should rule the seas instead, so they traded their kingdoms, right? Or what if Poseidon was never actually who we thought he was? It turns out he was just faking his personality for some unknown greater good that only Hades knows. I don't know, clearly I'm terrible at making up backstories, but the bigger picture I'm trying to make here is that at the moment, his purpose for revenge is just so weak in my opinion. And on the other hand, Qin is the idea of a king who I would actually believe in, the kind of fighter who I'd want to see give humanity the 4th win in Ragnarok. So at the moment, I just think the stage has already been set for Qin to prove not just why he's a worthy king, but also why not even Poseidon was worth it. And if the story manages to pull this off, then I think he's really just killing 2 birds with 1 stone here, because I think this is all gonna come full circle, that Poseidon is not the ideal image of what a king should be. And in a sense, you can see there's 2 fights happening there, right? The king versus the king, but in a metaphorical sense, only one can be right. And because Hades seems to not just agree with Poseidon, but also supports him entirely, then I'm curious to see how his backstory manages to counter Qin's on a moral level. But I think if things stay the way they are and Hades doesn't get a solid backstory, it would only make sense for Qin to win the moral victory on what defines a true king. And if he can manage to do that, then it only follows that Hades loses the round 2. So again, until we get more substance to the whole revenge plot, then I think Qin should win the fight here. But alright guys, I'm gonna end the video here. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked what I had to say, then please leave a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And please let me know in the comments what you all think, what you agreed or disagreed with. And if you're interested in more Record of Ragnarok videos, then make sure you subscribe. I'll be doing more here on the channel like always. And yeah, again, thank you so much for watching, guys. Have a great day.